Hello again, and welcome to Wednesday's podcast. It's Liz and I from Westcott's. We're going to talk to you about payroll present. So, what have we got on the discussion points today, Liz?
Well, we were looking at risk areas with national minimum wage, pension, obviously the different types of pensions that there are. When you go into a pension, it's not just a case of you're in a pension,
Yeah,
because tax is treated differently depending on what sort of a pension your employer or you as a client has chosen, and minimum requirements and legislation,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. So, should we kick things off then? Should we start with minimum wage? So,
Yeah,
what's
sure.
our areas that we like to highlight from a Westcott's payroll perspective? Um, we come across it all the time. We've been
Oh, we
involved, both you
absolutely
and I,
do. We,
in
yeah,
investigations with clients
yeah,
where we've
yeah.
been in the meetings. We've helped them prepare. So
Yeah.
what sort of areas would we like to highlight for clients to
Well, I think
consider?
I think the fact that you are paying the national minimum wage rate isn't enough, because there's other things that go alongside that. Obviously, you've got your mandatory deductions that you have to take: tax, national insurance, pensions, attachment of earnings, that sort of thing. There's no, you have to take those deductions, but other deductions, you've got to be really careful, because that
Yeah,
could reduce the employee's wage to below national minimum wage. And that's always best to check with a payroll professional before you take any deductions, either payroll
yeah,
professional or somebody who works within the employment law industry, because that has ended our clients in some sticky water, hasn't it? I mean,
yeah,
where they've maybe work in a shop or something, and the employee has taken home some products from the shop and said, just deduct it from my wage. That will put an employer in trouble with the national minimum wage organisation, HMRC, because that, if you're paying them on or just even above national minimum wage, will reduce the wage. Always do it outside of the payroll. If they've taken some products, let them pay the way that they would if they'd gone into any other shop. That's just one area. There's
yeah.
lots of little
There is, isn't there?
trapdoors, isn't there?
Yeah, understanding
Yeah.
deductions is an important one, isn't it? In the same way as salary sacrifice,
Oh yeah.
both you and I are
Yeah.
very aware of salary sacrifice, and the most common one is obviously cycle to work schemes, or the old childcare vouchers, and
Yes.
nowadays it's more pensions, isn't it? A
It
lot of
is, and I don't
companies offer
know
that.
I mean, there are only certain things that you can salary sacrifice, that you can legally salary sacrifice: pensions, cycle to work scheme, electric car. That's
Yeah,
that, I think, just off the top of my head. Um, but with salary sacrifice, as you rightly say, if you are paying them on or above, slightly above the national minimum wage, and then you start deducting salary sacrifice, that will reduce them to below national minimum wage.
yeah,
Even though it's going into the employee's pension, it will still affect their hourly rate.
yeah,
Basically, it will reduce
yeah.
it.
You've got to
Yeah,
be careful who you offer salary sacrifice to, haven't you? That's the
yeah,
issue that
yeah.
we often raise with the clients.
And I don't know about you, Jake, but I've noticed that since we had that big hike, or the reduction in the lower earnings threshold to 5,000 for the secondary contributions, the employer pension contribution, not pension, national insurance contributions. A few more of them have sort of been thinking about salary sacrifice, because that's a good way of reducing your national insurance liability.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. Yeah, it's a big way that employers have been trying to save themselves some money. The employment allowance, whilst it has been increased, but only goes so far still, doesn't it? So,
yeah,
they've
yeah,
been considering other areas of trying to reduce that national insurance bill that's been creeping up this year. So,
yeah.
yeah, salary sacrifice is a
Creeping.
good one.
You've
Just got to
jumped
be
off the
careful
flipping
when you.
edge. There's no
Yeah,
creeping
exactly.
about that one.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
what other areas of minimum wage are we looking out for when we're advising our clients. I know there's areas that we don't always get involved in, like timesheets. That's always the one that HMRC, I always think, we can sort of only have very minimal interest in that, in the sense of we can say to a client, you need to have a timekeeping register for your staff, whether it's a technology one where it's they're clocking in through a system,
Yeah,
or even if it's just handwritten and they're signing
yeah,
in and out and then signing at the end of the week or the end
yeah,
of the month to sign off their
yeah,
confirmed hours, because they
exactly.
look
But
for that,
but
don't
also,
they?
yeah, they do. The other thing you got to think about is when, um, a client or an employer might say, "Yeah, I know you start at 9 o'clock, but we want you to be here at quarter to open up." And they only pay them till from 9 o'clock onward, 9 till 5, but they're there till 5:15, closing up.
Yeah,
No, if you start that if the employee starts at quarter to 9, that's at that point is when you start paying them at quarter to 9. And that, if the other if you work within sort of the restaurant area, bars, busy time, lunchtime, but that's also when the employee wants to take their their lunch hour, and they might well be expected to carry on working. Do they get paid for that lunch hour? They've got to have that.
yeah,
You've got to have that time to away from the job, just to sort of take a breath, have something
yeah,
to eat,
absolutely.
and then start back again. But also, if you're not paid, if you're for that hour, then it is up to the employee to make sure that they do get paid.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also, it's
absolutely.
where some of our clients have, unfortunately, without realizing it, fallen foul.
Mm. Yeah, and there's obviously legislations around, working time regulations. So just making
Yeah,
sure staff get their entitled breaks. I know it's not really something we cover from a payroll perspective, because it's more of a HR matter and employment law. So we sort of, would send clients for further advice elsewhere for that,
yeah,
unfortunately. But it's sort of what we cover. And then, of whilst we're talking about employees and the minimum wage risk, that the obvious one is apprentices, isn't it?
oh
Because
yeah,
obviously they're of the younger nature, generally speaking, but there's areas of an apprentice, because they have that, lower wage rate for an apprentice that's currently matched with 16 to 17-year-olds. But there's that area of, concern, isn't there, once they've reached 19 and above and they've been there employed for longer than a year, then
they got
the
to go
wage,
up to the
exactly, got to be
yeah,
increased to the minimum wage for that age. So
yeah,
it's always something
exactly.
to
So
be
even if
wary
you've
of,
got
isn't it?
exactly if you've got somebody who becomes an apprentice at the age of 25, they can be on that lower apprentice rate for the first 12 months. So you've got to watch that, because it's not when they turn, when their
Yeah,
birthday is. It is literally when they have worked there for 12 months.
yeah,
Then their hourly rate needs to be addressed and increased to their 12.21 as it is today
yeah,
for a
yeah. The current
24-year
wage.
old.
Yeah,
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 yeah. So
yeah.
workplace pensions, understanding workplace pensions.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So we've got, obviously there's minimum requirements for workplace pensions. Obviously, the pensions regulator oversees it. So you have to complete your declaration of compliance. Every 3 years, you have your re-enrollments as well. So that always affects the staff that opt out or leave within that period. So they then have to be reassessed and re-enrolled. But from a contribution level basis, we've obviously got the qualifying earnings as the standard, for the smaller employers that are, I wouldn't say trying to avoid it as such, but probably trying to save costs,
yeah,
because it's, as we've discussed with national insurance, there's plenty of cost
yeah,
hikes for a small business. Having to pay out a workplace pension is probably not something that they're considering to, increase to above the minimum, for the
yeah.
time being,
They,
until
at the
until
end
they
of the
get
day, they
further
want to make
support.
exactly. They want to make sure that they're being compliant, and
Yeah,
that's the
absolutely.
most important thing. They don't want to shirk their responsibilities, but they do want to be compliant, and
Yeah,
they also got to make sure that they're, they don't want to put prices up, as you say,
yeah,
for their customers.
Yeah.
It's always an effect. So we've got different types of pension schemes. I mean, obviously we've got Nest, we've got Now, we've got people's pensions. They're kind of like smart pensions.
Yeah.
They're the main kind of auto enrollment ones that we deal with. There are a lot others. Then you've got your
Sure.
normal, your bigger pension that do more private pensions, Aviva, Scottish Widows, Standard Life, Legal and General. There's again lots more. They also do auto enrollment pension
Mm.
schemes these days. Didn't used to when it first
Yeah,
started.
I was thinking
That's
that they didn't, did they? They
yeah,
were a bit
no.
against it at the time when it was
Well,
first
they weren't getting
introduced.
money. They weren't making
Yeah,
money, were they?
they
That's the
were, they
problem
were,
because
they
it was
were. Yeah, they were
yeah,
thinking of the the bigger pound signs, I suppose. At the
yeah,
time, they weren't
yeah,
seeing
yeah. They
the
weren't interested in, a low
yeah
paid
contribution.
employees pension pot,
Mm.
which is a shame. But this is why Nest was developed. This is why they had
Yeah,
to come up with Nest. But yeah, so you've got Relief at Source, which is a Nest one. So that confuses quite a few of our clients, doesn't it? The employee's contribution is 5%, but I'm only deducting 4%. What's going on? Well, that's because the 1% gets paid into the employee's pension pot by Nest. They collect it from HMRC and put it directly into the pension pot.
yeah,
We've already talked about salary sacrifice. So that's
yeah,
when
yeah,
the employee and the employer enter into an agreement, and it has to be an agreement, a written agreement, stating that the employee is happy to sacrifice an element of their salary, which is then paid into the pension scheme as an employer pension contribution. So that obviously, the tax is already dealt with because it comes off their gross pay. And then you've got net pay arrangement.
yeah.
So
Which is
that's
it's similar to salary sacrifice, isn't it? In the sense of it's pre-tax, but the only difference is the national insurance isn't saved, is it? So
yeah,
that's where
that's
the
right.
benefit only lies from a salary sacrifice perspective,
Yeah,
but it's less of a
and
risk on the minimum wage side, isn't it? Net pay arrangement because it
it,
doesn't
it,
have
it
that
is.
same cost
It
aspect.
is, but also with net pay arrangement, obviously, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you're getting the benefit of that tax relief straight away.
Yeah,
Whereas with relief at source, what is paid into your pension pot is 20%. So if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you're not really getting the benefit of that. Oh, all that's going in is 20%. So if any of our, if you as an employee out there are in a relief at source scheme, but you are a higher rate taxpayer and you don't currently do a tax return, it's always worth having a look at that because you might get a bit of tax back.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There's the benefit to that, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah. So moving on to our last point, then should we discuss statutory payments? Obviously, every year they change. We've got obviously new rates for statutory paternity, maternity, and adoption, and then obviously
yeah,
the sick pay rate as well that's increased.
yeah.
So
And then
um,
we've got a new one this year, haven't we?
yeah, yeah, we
The
have
neonatal.
neonatal. Yeah,
Yeah, for anybody unfortunate to be in that situation, although it's a terrible thing to be in that situation, it's reassuring to know that you don't have to start maternity, your statutory maternity pay straight away. You can sort of put on your neonatal, and that gives you longer after the
yeah,
baby's born and everything.
yeah.
After the baby's brought home, you can start
Mm.
your maternity pay. So you're not cutting into that precious time that you're spending with your children, with your baby when they're first born, which is a really good positive move, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And obviously, we're quite cautious when we're looking into the parental payments and how they affect payroll. Obviously, with regards to
Yeah.
pensions and the employer contributions and
Yeah.
various different aspects that we have to monitor and make sure it's all correct.
The Alabaster ruling.
The alabaster ruling, of course. Yeah, how could I forget?
Yeah.
Certainly one
Yeah.
that's very prevalent with any minimum wage employers as well, because that
Yeah.
automatically increases every year. So
Yeah.
it's something that we have to monitor and then recalculate the qualifying period to the new minimum wage rate. The same way, if there's any employer salary increases, something that we always
Yeah.
have to monitor and then apply to any staff on maternity. So it's there's certainly a fair few areas there that
Yeah,
have to
well,
be
what can we
cautious
say?
of,
There's
haven't we?
194 different pieces of legislation that's around payroll. So
Yeah,
yeah,
plenty. Far too many to
definitely.
remember off the top of your head, isn't there? You have
Oh,
to,
absolutely. I always say, I want to check on that if you don't
yeah,
mind.
I want to recap. Let me refresh my
Oh,
memory because as
only
much
because it
as
changes as well. It changes.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah. And there's plenty of court cases that are always ongoing that catch you out when something
yes,
changes. It's the same
yeah.
way with holiday that's obviously only recently changed back, but
Oh,
had a fair few
yeah,
changes over the
yeah,
past recent
yeah,
years. So
yeah,
it's good to keep an eye on it, isn't it?
definitely, definitely, definitely. Well, I think that wraps it up for Wednesday.
Yeah,
For payroll. We've got tomorrow, we'll be looking at the future.
the future tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't tell them what tomorrow brings. We'll save it
No, we'll
for a
save it. Yeah,
surprise.
sounds like
Yeah,
a plan.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. So we'd like to say goodbye and hopefully see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. And if you do need any assistance or you'd like to get in touch, our details are on the Westcott's website, or again, you can contact us on our joint email that we use, which is payroll-managers@westcotts.uk. Thanks very much. See you
Thank
tomorrow.
you. Bye.